Welcome everyone to this episode of the Gretchen Casey Show, where I talk to real people who are related to the field of real estate and who are not only experts, but they're very generous and kind to share their information and their knowledge and their wisdom with us here. And the goal of the show is to give you some information and tips so that you can reach your goals related to real estate and to take some of the guesswork out of what to do or who to call when you need help in a process. And today I'm talking to Stephanie Ostrom, and she is a family law lawyer with Elm Law, specializing in separation, child custody, and spousal support and alimony in Durham region. Mouthful.
I know, it's a lot. That's totally fine. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. I was just going to add that we first met. I was reaching out to start a relationship with you and your team so that we could support each other in our mutual interests. So, Stephanie, if you could tell us a little bit more about what you do and who you help, and that would be great.
Of course. So I only practice family law, and it's actually coming up on 10 years that I've been practicing exclusively family law. So that means that I deal with, yes, child custody and access. I deal with spousal support. I deal with property division or equalization for people, basically anything to do with separation and divorce. And then, of course, also cohab agreements and prenups or marriage contracts. So I work at Elm Law, and Elm Law is owned by myself and Amelia Yu, and we only do the state litigation, which is basically elder law, and family law. We have a great team, all female, of 5 other lawyers, and then some support staff as well.
Okay, excellent. So I get a lot of questions about people. The reason that I would reach out to you is people are asking me if they are splitting up, can they buy out their spouse, or can they perhaps not be in the home but buy another home? And when people are in that situation, what would you say they should consider in deciding about what to do with the home when separating?
Of course. You know what, honestly, that's a great question because it's so very important, and yet most people don't know the answer. And so sometimes people get themselves in a world of trouble that could have been very easily avoided, right? So the most important thing to know is that when you're looking to refinance, or even when you're looking to sell, and most of the time, I'm looking at one or the other option when we're looking at a separation or divorce. So when you have that situation, then most likely, I would say 99.9% of the time, you're going to need either a separation agreement, which you negotiate outside of the court, or you're going to need a court order in order to release the proceeds of sale from your house, right? So the problems come in when sometimes people are quite emotional, and they obviously are caught up in a whole lot going on when they separate. And sometimes they rush out and they purchase a new home right away because they're so excited to start their new life and to get their kids into a new place. And they don't realize that you have to deal with the outstanding issues before you can actually release those funds. So I get a lot of calls saying, oh my goodness, the house is closing next week, and now the bank is looking for a separation agreement. We don't have one, and I already purchased a new home. I need my $200,000 or $2 million, it makes no difference. I need my money from this home in order to purchase a new home, right? So the lawyer won't release those funds unless they get a direction from the parties, and they want to know that all of those issues have been dealt with so that they feel confident in releasing the funds. So if you obviously don't get the funds released, then you can get sued because you can't complete the new transaction, the purchase of your new home. So we definitely do not want that to happen, right? And it's so important to think ahead and say, okay, what are we going to need? Let me check with every single person involved on this transaction to make sure that we have everything that we need. Now, the other thing that happens is that people hear that they need a separation agreement, and honestly, they're going through a very traumatic experience. It's all too much for them. And so they say to whoever's involved, okay, so you want us to sign a piece of paper saying that I'll get $500 a month in child support? Okay, here you go. And they sign it, and it's just one thing, and it gets the deal done, but they haven't thought about the other issues.
But here's the thing. Oops, my apologies. Losing my headset. There you go.
But here's the thing. If you don't actually deal with those issues when you're holding the proceeds of the sale of the home, then that's your only chance to have a lump sum of money. So a lot of times as well, people will come to me and say, okay, so I signed this piece of paper, but actually my ex owes me $50,000, $100,000, you know, in property division, for the pension, for spousal support, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we can definitely go through the whole process. We can go to court. We can get a nice, pretty piece of paper that says that so-and-so is going to pay you X amount of money. But if there's nowhere to get the money from, that piece of paper is not going to do you any good, right? So it really is your best chance to resolve all the issues dealing with your separation and make sure that you can move forward and you actually do have a clean slate, right? And it's not just sliding problems under the rug, which are going to come back to haunt you a couple years or a couple months down the road.
I think that's great advice. And I think it's very important that people speak to like yourself to get all of that information. And then I can say from like a lender's point of view, you know, this is what they're going to want, but that doesn't necessarily mean all the issues are really ready to be resolved. So that's great advice to have them make sure they're talking to professionals too before they finalize that agreement.
Absolutely. And the thing is, if you're working with professionals, especially in an area such as Durham region, you know, a lot of people know each other. So sometimes there are issues and if you have professionals who are working together, then you can say to your real estate lawyer or your family law lawyer or your broker, whoever, you know, why don't you guys just get on the phone so we're all on the same page here? Because generally there is a team of 5, 6, 7 people involved by the time everything's said and done. And, you know, if one hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing, then it can become messy if one person thought an issue was resolved and it's actually not. So I think it is really important to when you're talking to professionals to say, hey, listen, do you have these relationships where you can reach out to people and we can make sure we don't have any problems that crop up right at the end.
Yeah, excellent advice. So because of what's going on with COVID-19 and there's a lot of uncertainty and, you know, you hear lots of rumors of a lot of people are having challenges in their relationships because they've been in this unusual situation for quite a period of time. So how would you guide people navigating breakup decisions at this time?
Well, I mean, I think that answer is a little bit twofold, right? On one side, it's not really a legal issue, it's more of a practical issue. And I can say, just from personal experience, I can't speak for any other lawyers, but for me, over the last number of years practicing family law, the one thing that I hear the most is, I should have done this sooner, right? It's very, very rare that someone says to me, listen, this is a horrible mistake and I'm being forced into this. And, you know, actually we had a perfect relationship, et cetera, et cetera. No, the one thing I hear over and over again is I should have done this sooner. So obviously everyone needs to do everything they can to try and save their relationship. But if people know in their heart that, you know, you've done everything possible, then I would say that the pandemic has reminded us a little bit that life is too short to be unhappy. And so if you can have a plan and go through a separation, you know, in an amicable manner without getting too emotional, without everything just getting crazy, then, you know, that's a really possibly very healthy thing for you to do if that's the situation that you're in, right? Now, the other side of that coin is a legal issue, and that is that people are very concerned about finances these days, and rightly so. We have a lot of people who unfortunately have lost jobs, don't know if they're going to be able to keep their jobs, et cetera, et cetera. And we, without even understanding that the pandemic was going to happen, we had already saw that there was possibly an issue there. And so we had launched a new website called Divorce Buddy, in which people can pick and choose services that they need so that they can control the costs themselves. And that was just based on feedback within the larger legal community. People are so scared when they go to lawyers that somehow there's going to be this huge bill and you will have no say in the matter. And that's a terrifying thing. I would certainly never want to use a professional if I didn't know how much things were going to cost and I thought that I would be charged without understanding why or how. And so we're trying to put that out and get the word out about that, because for a lot of people, if it's a very simple matter, then that can be done very easily. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money, and it doesn't have to take a lot of time.
I love that. So divorce buddies.
Divorce Buddy. Divorcebuddy.ca. Yeah, that's right. There's a cute little dog as the logo, so you'll notice it.
I think that's fantastic, and people definitely should check that out if they have any questions about costs and what to expect. So that's excellent. Cool. Okay, so another thing with COVID, we know the courts have been closed, and how does that affect if someone is at this time wanting to move forward to separate? Are they going to have to expect kind of a backlog, or what's happening with the courts and that process?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the truth is that no one knows entirely for sure, but I think that the courts are reopening as of next week. And so the judges will be taking on regular matters once again. And so that's fantastic news, because there's a lot of court cases that were delayed. And so we can get those back on the books, and we can get people through the system and in front of a judge, because sometimes that's necessary in order to resolve the matter. I would say that it's entirely reasonable to expect a delay for people who are starting their matters now, just because it's a substantial backlog, I would say, at this point. But I do think the court is going to be more efficient, at least in the next couple of months, because they're going to be doing everything remotely, unless the judge themselves specifies that they want the parties to attend. And from all reports, that's going to be a minority of cases. So I think people can expect to have, a Zoom call with the judge that'll be 30 minutes. Whereas, when we were at court before, lawyers are long-winded. And so sometimes it would be much, much longer than 30 minutes. But I think it'll be easier to control the amount of time now. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to get everyone back in and get these files moving forward.
So were Zoom calls part of the process before, or is that going to be brand new?
That's pretty much brand new. There was always the option for teleconferencing, but they only did it when someone was unavailable, out of province or something like that. It wasn't standard, and now it's going to be standard.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I know. We're all moving into the future.
Yeah, that's great. Efficiency. I love it.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, well, that's good to hear that things are going to be resolvable, hopefully in a fairly quick manner for people.
Yeah,
that's good. Right. So you have experience guiding people when they're separating, and what would be a few practical legal tips to help reduce the stress of the process?
For sure. So the one thing I always tell people, because people ask me this question, quite frankly, on the street sometimes, and this is what I would tell my friend or my family member: everything is stressful if you don't have the knowledge about a particular situation, right? So even though we have everything available at our fingertips through the internet, there's so many great sites that give you some basic information about separation and divorce, child support, spousal support, all of those things. But what you need to really understand is how those things are going to relate to you personally, right? So I always say to people, the very best thing you can do and the best value for your money is to actually pay for a consult with a family law lawyer. Just for 1 hour of their time, ask all your questions, get all your answers, and you have a plan to move forward. And then you can move forward on your own. You can move forward with mediation. You can move forward in a number of different ways, whatever you want to do. But at least you'll have the knowledge. And I really do find that having that knowledge base really helps people to relax, because otherwise, there's some crazy myths out there that, somehow in divorce you can lose your children just like that, and people obviously have these things in the back of their mind, and that does not help them when they're starting the process. The other thing I would say is that you need to sort of formulate a plan, right, in terms of where you want to be and how you want to get through this process. And then you can share that plan with whatever professionals you're working with, or quite frankly with your ex, to say, this is where we want to end up. Right? How are we going to get there? Especially if you have children, you're going to be communicating for quite a long time. So it's really in everyone's best interest that we figure out how to move forward together, right?
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Myself, I'm divorced, so I have 3 children, so I can relate to that. Yeah.
It's hard. It's really hard. But if you set the tone at the beginning, then I find you don't have as many problems moving forward. But if you don't set up a plan and you don't communicate well at the beginning, then a lot of times, because everyone's emotional state is heightened, then people read into things where there was no offense intended, et cetera, and things can go very wrong very quickly. And that's a shame for everyone involved, particularly the children.
Well, I think you have a great demeanor and a great way of dealing with people. So I'm sure it's a really good experience for people to work with you. So.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
I try my best.
So, Stephanie, what would be one last piece of advice from you for Canadians today?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I think that really the pandemic has also taught us, or at least me, that, everyone has a lot going on, and a lot of times we don't even know what other people have going on. There's a lot going on in the world today. And so I think we're all just a little bit kinder, and we all just take a moment. You really can't go wrong with a kind word or gesture. And I think that's particularly true of professionals, because a lot of times when we're talking to people, we know the process and we know how to get them from A to B, and we have the expertise. And so it's very easy to guide someone through the process and, not take a moment to say, hey, how are you doing today, right? And certainly I've been trying to check in on my clients to see how they're doing in life as opposed to just how they're doing with this particular process. So I think that's all we can do, right? We have no idea if there's going to be a second wave, how long this is really going to last. So you can't go wrong with a little bit of kindness.
I think that's perfect. I love it.
No problems.
How can people get in touch with you in your office? They would like to.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. So we're not doing in-person consultations, obviously, right now. We're still doing video chat or telephone consultations, but you can call us at 905-233-4850, or you can reach us via our website, which is elmlaw.ca, and send us an email. And then, of course, we also have the other website, which is divorcebuddy.ca, if you're looking for only one specific issue that you're looking for help with. And there are actually 4 options there. So I'd really recommend people go to that website, take a look at the options, and you can give them, there's a phone number as well that you can give a call if you're not quite sure, and we can talk you through the process either way. Okay. We're really just trying to find the right fit for people, because everyone needs something a little bit different in this process. So we're just trying to be as efficient as possible, get people through the process so you can move on with your life.
I think that's great. Thank you so much for your time and giving these really great tips. And I'm sure you're putting a lot of people's minds at ease, just knowing that the answers are there, and that someone like yourself who's so warm and caring is available to them. So thank you so much.
I appreciate that. No problems. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.